Hello, fellow teachers. Jackie here, and welcome to the Music Teacher Mastermind podcast, where independent music teachers come together for a mini mastermind. Today, I am so excited to share with you a conversation I had with my dear piano teacher friend, Amy Elmore, as we discuss what we consider to be three vital components to help prevent piano teacher burnout later in the teaching year: studio systems, clear and concise policies, and the money stuff too, of course. Amy is a business strategist for piano teachers, among many other hats, and I think you all are going to appreciate her insights to help keep things streamlined at her own multi-teacher studio. Now, let's get started learning with this week's challenge, opportunity, problem, and inspiration, also known as our COPI, of what we can do now to prevent teacher burnout later. Let's get started. Hello, teacher friends, and welcome to the Music Teacher Mastermind podcast. My name is Jaclyn Mrozek, but you can call me Jackie, and I will be your facilitator. Today, I have with me Amy Elmore, owner of Keys to Praise Piano Studio, course creator of the Preschool Group Piano Blueprint, and business strategist for piano teachers. Welcome, Amy. I'm so glad you're here today.
Hi, Jackie. Thanks for having me. It's fun to talk to you face to face.
I know. It's nice to actually connect. So can you tell us a bit more about what's going on in the studio for you and your course and all the behind scenes?
Well, I'm in Anaheim, California. It's where I was born and raised here. So I live 3 miles from the house that I grew up in. So I don't get out much. This is kind of where the brick and mortar portion of our business is located. So we have a music studio, piano studio mostly, but we do teach voice and ukulele as well, but primarily piano. And that is one area of our business. Right now, we're in the middle of our summer session. We do a 6-week summer session. So this particular week is starting week number 5 already. It goes by so fast. At the end of our 6 weeks, we have like a little mini ice cream recital, and all the kids look forward to it. So do the teachers, because it's really low key. It's kind of a casual version of our bigger recitals during the year. And that's what's happening in the studio. On the other arm of my business, I just created and launched a new offering for piano teachers, which is the Preschool Group Piano Blueprint. It's a mouthful. I'm like, next time I'm going to pick fewer words, but
I love it.
PGP Blueprint, but basically it helps teachers start, teach, and run their own preschool group piano program in their own studios, which is something that we added to our offerings about 6 or 7 years ago now. And then I work with teachers one-on-one for coaching and strategizing their businesses. I know it sounds like a big word, but it's, just looking at kind of all the nitty-gritty things that go on in addition to the teaching, because I think a lot of times as teachers, we just dive into that. We have to know our stuff with that. And the business stuff just kind of, we grab it, it's floating out there in the air, and we're like, I could have a policy. Okay, let me grab that. I got to have a pricing, So just helping think through all of those things so you can kind of get a good foundation in that, on that side of the business as well for teachers.
Yeah. And that's so important. So important, right? Because I feel like you're right. We always start with the teaching. And then as we go, we're like, oh, this isn't working. What is makeup policy? What tuition, even billing? What is that? And yeah, so that's great that you help them kind of get centered with their businesses. Yeah. And then real quick too, we are going to get to talking about our thing, but I just want to throw out that I took your preschool group piano blueprint and I've implemented it this summer. It's just a quick shout out for Amy, that it's a great course and it works. I love it. I love it. And the kids love it too. So, but jumping over, we are going to discuss today what I think you and I both seem to agree is the 3 main components of preventing teacher burnout, which I know you talk about a lot throughout the year on your Instagram page, because it's such a real problem for teachers. And really the best way to deal with it is to prevent it, right? So we were saying that there's mainly a focus that is needed on systems, policies, and money management. And actually, It's funny because in our little boot camp, so I've been having a boot camp over the summer for teachers, and you just did a session on systems for us. So I thought we would start with that today because you're kind of our expert in the group for that. So as we jump to the studio systems, can you tell us what exactly they are? How you would describe them?
Sure. Well, first of all, like the whole concept of burnout, right? I think really became known or more noticed around 2020-ish. And we were all trying to figure out like, now what do we do? How do we pivot? And everybody was, um, you know, feeling super overwhelmed. And I kind of think that at that time, there were people that were talking about like, just cut this out, just cut that out. We just need to focus on what really matters. And that is true, like one thing at a time and, get your priorities straight. But then we still kept doing all the stuff. So I don't know that burnout has really solved itself. But if you're feeling like, speaking to the teachers listening, if you're feeling like you can't make a decision, there's so many things and you're just like frozen. If you feel like you ever have physical manifestations like trouble catching your breath, heart racing, that kind of thing. And if you just feel, generally overwhelmed and not looking forward to the day, like you get up in the morning and you're just like, just that heavy weight. I think we could still be dealing with burnout in a lot of cases, even though there has been a lot more discussion on it since then. So just as a preface, but you know what, maybe you're listening and you're like, no, I'm good. I feel great. You may not feel that you need the strategies that Jackie and I are going to talk about today. So maybe you just want to listen in and you're like, I just want to find out if I'm kind of on the right path, in the right track, kind of getting all the things covered. So maybe you want to listen today because of that, just to, okay, good. Yeah, I'm good. Check. It's ready. So your question about what exactly are studio systems. So I would kind of see them something that you do where you have to do it over and over. So it's an activity that can be decided upon once and then repeated again and again and again. So I don't know, we can get into specifics, but just things that like scheduling and payments, and even if in your own home system, you may have an activity like laundry, you have to do it again and again, cleaning or whatever, and kind of coming up with an idea about how it works best to do that again and again. So each time it comes up, you don't have to rethink about it, because part of overwhelm is making so many decisions. So if that decision is created and made like once and for all, or once and for a season or something, then that's the beauty of the system. Decide once, repeat often.
Well, I really like how you compared it to doing, home activities like laundry and that kind of thing. I've never really thought about it that way. It's almost like you could replace the word system in a way with routine. What are your studio routines in a way? Because I shouldn't say we all, but we all try maybe to have a laundry routine, right? So it's kind of like your typical, through the year, if you get emails of, hi, I'm interested in piano, and suddenly now you have to stop what you're doing and you've got to spend time and respond to this person. Like you have these systems where they're like, and I might be jumping ahead too, but of like a template of sorts where you can just copy and paste and send it to them, maybe make a little tweak here and there if you want to personalize it a bit. But for the most part, it takes away a lot of that brain space requirement, I guess, that maybe we don't have in the gloomy months of January, at least here in Ohio where I am. It's nice and sunny right over there in California, but for us, it gets quite gloomy. So I really like how you compared it to all of that. I think it makes a lot of sense. So you look at it as it's important for teachers to start getting them ready now, right? Before the school year even begins, have them in place. Or how can teachers go about doing that before the school year begins?
Yeah, that's really great, because once the school year starts and you're in the middle of teaching, it's hard to carve out that time. So a lot of us have a little extra time during the summer. I think the biggest question I would ask is, what do you not like? Like, what is not working well? What stresses you out? What like you said, the you get the question, the inquiry about lessons, and you have to stop what you're doing and like, okay, I have to answer this person. And there was times in our studio, I was going back through my emails and I realized like there were people I just left hanging. They came to us through the website, they inquired. I think it was a busy day teaching or whatever. And I was like, I'll get back to that. And I never did. And it was just one of those times where there was so much going on. And, that's not a good way to run your business. You don't feel good about leaving people hanging. I felt terrible.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, now is a great time to do it. But also, don't feel like you have to have everything done, buttoned up, ready to go by August, September, or whenever you start your fall semester. Or some people do their calendar year January to December. So you may be like just right in the middle of your year. But the question to ask would be like, what does not feel good? What isn't working? One of the things that we get asked a fair amount, even though we have it in our policy, is the makeup lesson question. So that was not working, to have to stop and answer each person individually. So we came up with like a template sort of answer. And I have an email all ready to go. And I'll start it with, a couple of sentences that's personal, so it doesn't feel like a template. But then all the main stuff has already been thought through, written out in a clear way, and then I can just pop that over when those questions come up. But
Yeah.
now is a good time to think.
It is a good time.
Things go wild.
Yeah. Well, and you can even kind of do it. I've done in the past too, where let's say that it's in, I don't know, March or whatever, and I get the makeup lesson question. And I think, okay, I've been asked this question too many times, and I will save the email or my response, and I use my music staff. So I'll just put it in my music staff in one of the templates, and then I have it. So sometimes too, you can do it as you go if you think about it.
Yeah, no, but yeah, you can totally do it as they come up as well. That's a great strategy. But yeah, it has definitely saved time. And then you feel like you're not just scrambling, putting words together that you just had to think of on the fly because you're in between lessons and you don't want to do it at 9:00, after everybody's gone to bed and you're done teaching and whatever. So,
Right.
so it saves time and it produces something that's quality, which just provides more of that professional vibe that,
Right. And I like how you say quality, because that's so true. Because a lot of people can think, what's the big deal? It's just sending off an email. Right. But when you're in the thick of it and you've got everything going on, and maybe you have one of your longer teaching days, you have something going on with your family, it really does help. And then you don't miss those little things. Later on, I'll always think, oh man, I didn't say this, I didn't say that. So everything's covered and you don't have to worry about it. So it's good to be prepared. So then let's go ahead and shift on over to policies. That's always a hot topic for everyone. And as you were saying earlier, it's different for everyone. But I think the most important thing when it comes to policies is that they are very clear to the parents and they're specific. Right.
Mm.
So do you have any specific criteria that you follow when you are revising your policy?
Yeah, I think it's so true. I don't know if it's Brene Brown. Somebody said clarity is kind, being clear. And we think we're doing it for ourselves, which we are. It's helpful to run our business with a clear policy, but it's really customers too, for our audience, for our parents, because if they come to our studio and they're like, what am I supposed to do? What's happening? I don't know. It doesn't feel streamlined for them too. They are making a million decisions. They want to save their time just as much as we do. So kind of getting all the information out there and in a clear way, clear and concise. Exactly. I agree with you totally there. So again, like you said, there's no right or wrong, but I like a one-page policy sheet, and I only put 3 things on there. Because there's like a magic. There's some research about the number 3 that it's easy for our brains to remember. And so I think about like, what are the 3 things that come up the most for me when people ask questions about enrolling or what is it like to be part of your studio and that kind of thing. So those are the 3 things I put on there. Can you put more things? Probably. I mean, you could do a back to back or, whatever sheet, but I think it can get overwhelming and parents, they don't have time to read it all. So just pick your 3 most topics that come up the most. And for us is tuition, missed lessons. Oh, discontinued lessons. That one doesn't actually come up a lot, but I just want to put that out there because I want people in our studio to realize that learning an instrument is hard. And your kid may love it the first month. And the second month, they may be like, I'm good. But you have to look long range and think about there's always going to be hills and valleys and doing something hard. So we really encourage our students to make at least a 1-year commitment. This is for the private lesson students, not the preschoolers. And so if someone comes to us like in January and says, so-and-so's not practicing right now, the famous, they're not practicing and I don't want to have the argument. And so we're done kind of thing. So there's a little blurb about discontinued lessons. And if that becomes necessary, here's what we do, but we really encourage you to stay for the year. So those are the 3 things: tuition, missed lessons, and discontinued ones. And then of course, I love to talk about practicing and how that when you have a good system there, a good, a plan and a routine, that really solves a lot of the other issues. But that's not something I put in the policy because we will have a separate conversation or I'll send an email about it or whatever. That'll come up during the year. But yeah, those are my 3 things.
No, I think that's really, really smart. I like the 3 things a lot.
Yeah. Well, and I think something like our brains have to hear something like 7 times or something like that. There's some other number where it doesn't register quite right away. So repeating it. And of course, there's going to be the parents that don't really read the policy. If you have it like on your website or if you have it as part of your registration process, like we all do, right? We'll just scan to the bottom, check, sign,
Right.
And you don't always read it. When we start every semester or when we have like a meet and greet with a new family, I will give them a hard copy of it. I'll say, hey, there's just these 3 things. Talk about them now. Then we save time later. We don't have to talk about them later. These are benefits to you in the studio, like our tuition policy. It's a flat rate. It's automated payments. Those are like some features of it. But the benefit to them is that it saves them time. They don't have to wonder what they're going to pay every month. It saves us time having to talk about it, back and forth. We're not taking lesson time to cover some of this business stuff. And then like the impact is just that we get to spend more time teaching and we get to spend more time connecting with them and not having to go over this businessy stuff. So yeah, repeating it often for sure. And making sure it's clear and tweaking it if we need to, like you said, when there's new people that come through. I love that.
Yeah. And that I like that too, especially in that first meeting. I think it's super, super important. When it comes to policies, you get your confidence running your business. They're confident in you. And like you said, you don't have to, you can just focus on teaching. You can just focus on why we're there, right? It's such a great thing.
And I think it just again, it adds that value to you as a business owner. She's really got it together. He has this policy and this is kind of a serious deal being a part of the studio. Okay, well, I feel good about paying for this because this is the real deal. They've got this format together and yeah, and I think when we're presenting our policies too, not to apologize for them.
Yeah.
Not to I'm sorry this is in here, but I've really had to struggle with this. I mean, I've found myself saying that and I hear myself saying it in real time and it's put the words back in your mouth. It's just not, you don't need to hear what's going on the inside or, why doing what I'm doing. Or
you don't need to apologize for running an efficient business.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
You don't have to apologize for, respecting your own time. And yeah, I get it. But I've done the same thing. It's almost like I would be asking them permission to follow my own policies or something. And it's like, and if I were to watch you do that, I'd be like, don't do that. And if you watched me do that, you'd be like, don't do that. So we just have to almost pretend like we have to be our own cheerleaders.
Right. Yes.
For sure. So I love this. Now, you were talking about one of them in your policy is the tuition and all that. I think one of the biggest, I'm kind of, transitioning over to the money part of this is our third component, right? The streamlining money management. And it's not just how we handle our funds, but also, it's everything. It's the tuition, it's expenses, it's that balance. Because when you are putting so many hours into lesson planning, teaching, researching, even just scrolling on social media and looking for answers, that's you're working, right? And I think it's easy to get resentful when people were chasing down payments or people are arguing with our tuition or we're just simply not making enough money. So I think this is a really big one for sure. So let's talk about collecting tuition first of all. That's one of the common complaints posted in social media, I think, and other teachers that I've helped, has been about that. So what have you found is the best way to solve this issue?
I'm going to give you one word: automate.
Yay!
That is the best way that I have found to solve that issue for me. It may not work for everybody in everybody's studio, but I think if you want to, some people will say, I only have X number of students, which that doesn't make that's not a value on you as your studio. Oh, I only have 10 students, so I'm just not really running a business. I'm not really, that's 10 people, 10 families, etc., that you are coming in contact with every week that you want to provide a really high quality, good service for. And maybe you want to add 10 more. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just want to have those 10. But I think the common thing that I hear is, well, I'm not really where I want to be yet, so I don't really have to automate all of this. I only have a few students or whatever. But I would just say that the benefit and the impact is that you save so much time. You don't have that feeling of, like you were saying, that bitterness, resentment thing. Like, I've been putting in so much time and effort to this student, this family, and 2 weeks, and they still haven't paid, like it's 2 weeks behind or whatever, and you're chasing down payments. And when you automate, it's another system, right? It's something that has to happen every month. So why not get it set up so you don't have to think about it, you don't have to chase after it, you don't have to recreate the wheel every single time. And honestly, with the automation, now that we've done that in our studio for probably, I don't know, 7 years, 8, I don't know. I wasn't always doing it, I can tell you that. And now that we have done it, I rarely have to chase a payment, like hardly ever. Because when they register, they add their card information, and on the 1st of every month, it just automatically comes out. It's an automatic withdrawal. It goes into my PayPal account. That's what I use. And then I transfer it from my PayPal account to my banking account, and that's it. Like, I don't have to email people, remind them, and I don't know.
Makes it easy. Yeah.
It's so glorious. I love it so much. Like, on the 1st of the month, sometimes or the end of the week before the beginning of the next month, I used to sit at my dining room table, typing out invoices, emailing them one at a time to families. And it was just a lot of extra work at night after you've been teaching. And now, like, sometimes I'll be somewhere, not even working, if the 1st falls on a Saturday or Sunday, and my phone just starts dinging my email. You have a payment, you have a payment, you have a payment, you have a payment. And it's so, that's always great, right?
You're right.
Little notifications, but that is my favorite part about any kind of system, really, is just the automation of it, and just putting in the work front and the time saving on the back end.
And I know that a lot of people would want to counter that and be like, well, I don't want to pay, the fees, like the PayPal fees, credit card fees. So, and I think you and I both use my music stuff. And I know that Fonz kind of is the same thing. Like I use Stripe, whereas you use PayPal, and it doesn't matter, right? There's going to be fees. And it took me years. I went, like, you name it, I tried it in order to avoid the fees. Okay. And I finally came to the point where I was like, you know what? It's almost like paying a virtual assistant to do this for me. Like it became worth it as far as I was concerned. So I know that is a struggle for a lot of teachers where they're like, I don't make enough to pay all these fees. But it does come to that, you have to make that decision for yourself.
I think it's a total mindset thing because you will have to pay the fees to streamline, but it's just part of the cost of doing business. And those fees are deductible in your cost of doing business.
Yeah.
So there's a benefit there. And when we're pricing our lessons, our packages, I calculate in my mind, okay, I'm going to need to pay, I think it's like 3%-ish, give or take, for that PayPal processing fee. And it's added in there. I don't tell them it's added in there, but when I consider it's actually, I don't know if I'm mentally thinking of that when I'm considering my tuition rates, or we also do a studio kind of registration fee every semester. So I will just take the amount that they are paying per month and that percentage, that's taken out for the fees, and I'll add that up for my 5 months of the semester and put that back into either the tuition or the studio registration fee. So I'm not feeling like I had to pay all these fees. I didn't really. They're paying
That's
it.
great. Yeah. You're working it in. Okay, hold on. So let's talk about that. So you're working it into your even billing tuition, but let's just pause for a second to define that, because when I first started teaching so I used to teach at a multi-teacher studio, and I did the whole monthly, okay, there's 4 lessons this month, so this is how much you owe. There's 2 lessons this month, so I'm going to be broke, but this is how much you owe, right? And I'll never forget the director there sitting me down and explaining the even billing to me. And I have to be honest with you, it took me forever to wrap my mind around that. Like I kept going back to her like 2 weeks, like, wait, hold on, how does this work? So I'm just going to take a wild guess that I'm not the only one out there that had confusion. So can you just kind of talk about the even billing real quick and how it works?
Sure. Yeah, just like a flat rate tuition fee. So every month they get it's the same amount that they pay every single time, no matter the number of lessons that occur in that month. So some months they may be receiving 5 lessons, which is funny because nobody ever complained about that. No one ever sent me an email and said, I got 5 lessons this month and I still paid the same amount. Yeah. But, some months they got 2 lessons, or if there's a holiday in there, or 3 lessons, and generally it's 4. But so what we do is we take a semester, and our semester is 17 lessons. All the holidays have been calculated in there. And then the way I calculate it, you can go kind of backwards or forwards either way, but the way I calculate it is I think I would like to be paid this amount per 30-minute lesson or whatever. This is kind of what I feel like is a good rate for not just the teaching time, but like you said, all the extra things that we do outside of the 30 minutes, 45 minutes, hour, however long we're spending with the student. I kind of assess, mentally, and then I come up with the number. I multiply that times 17. And then I divide that by 5 months. So our fall semester is August, September, October, November, December. And we don't start till halfway through August. So really in August, they're only getting two lessons. But when it's explained in a way that it's a flat rate, it covers this semester, it covers 17 weeks. And it's just divided up evenly. So really it's to their benefit as well, because it's the same amount every time. They don't ever have to worry about that. It's always the same amount every time. So that's kind of how I calculate it. I think you can also decide like how much you want to receive, what your salary goal is.
Right.
And then,
Yeah.
calculate it backwards that way. But I usually start with like my teaching rate. And then I don't explain all of the details. So I will never tell a student. I mean, if somebody asks and they really want it broken down, I will tell them. But I don't say each lesson is, X amount of dollars. The way we describe it. But, well, and the reason I don't is because they're not paying just for that moment in time with you. They're paying to be a part of the studio. So they're paying for recitals. They're paying to have their name on the calendar. They're paying for that spot. You're not going to give their schedule spot to anybody else. That is like their real estate right there. They get that spot. They're paying for, we do a couple like additional workshops and things that they don't have to pay any extra fee for. So it's kind of like a membership. You go to the gym, no matter how many times you go to the gym, but here's all the things that are available to you when you go to the gym. So you pay to be a part of the piano studio. Here's everything that's available, one-to-one teaching time is part of it. The teacher who is going to continue to do their own personal education is part of it. When you upgrade instruments, when you make your studio, you get some really good lighting in there, whatever. It's all part of being a part of the membership or the studio.
No, I love that because you're right. I mean, we are investing in equipment. We're investing in having a good tuned instrument for them. If we are doing group classes, we're doing nice digital pianos. And then you got studio licenses, piano parties. I love that. I love the whole membership idea. And I love that you do it semesters. So I switched to 12 months last year. I did 9 months all before then. So there are different ways to do it according to what works best for your situation in your studio. But I think that is one of the main points. It's like, okay, what do you need? What is your goal, your salary goal? And you kind of work back. It makes me think of the profit first formula for sure. Okay. So what strategies would you recommend for piano teachers to organize their own accounts and streamline financial processes effectively?
Well, I think first we have to look at it. I think money for a lot of us, it's kind of overwhelming. It can feel like very fearful activity. So like we may feel like we don't really understand, or we're afraid to look at the numbers because it might not be good. Maybe it's not something that we want to see. So first, we can't ignore it. We have to look at it. And if you're not feeling comfortable looking at it yourself, then have somebody look at it with you, like hire a coach or somebody. I know both you and I have worked with Andrea Miller, who spreadsheet queen.
She's fantastic.
She takes all the emotion out of it and you just plug in your numbers and, but you do have to look at it. It's not going to magically just work its way out. So that would be one strategy. The second strategy, I think, is a task, I guess, is to make sure that you have a business account and you're not running your piano studio through your personal account. Separate. You mentioned profit first earlier. I like that strategy where you pay yourself first and you have kind of like little buckets for the money that comes in. I would get like checks, payments. This is before I automated everything. I would just take every check and just put it in. And then I didn't pay myself. I just used the money that was in my account. So that is one thing I have done differently over the years. We have our tuition that comes in on the first and then pay myself from that. So I don't take all of that as my income. I've decided what my income is going to be. I budgeted it out. So I pay myself. Then I set aside money for taxes. And then I make sure that I have enough money for operating expenses, like books that I have to get or prizes or whatever. And then I set aside money to pay our teachers. And then profit first would say, take out 10%, 1%, whatever, something that is going to be automatically done. So you're not like, oh, I didn't do it this month. I didn't really have the money or whatever. You just take it right off the top and put it aside so that you're always like putting back into the business or having a profit in the business. And it's not just all coming in and going out. Like you want something to stay in there.
Right.
So that,
yeah. And it, like you said, have different buckets, maybe different accounts. One account goes to taxes, one account goes to savings if you want to pay yourself. So you really have to look at that number from the end of the year. Like, okay, all the tuition, I should be earning X amount. Well, you got to factor in all the other stuff too. And I think that was my biggest problem with burnout, was because I was expecting X amount at the end of the year. And I was like, where is all that money? And it's just simply how it was being managed and everything wasn't being put where it needed to go. So I'm really excited about this year. Now that I'm organized, I'm like, it's going to happen. It's going to be great.
yeah.
So we have covered so much in such a small amount of time. So obviously we didn't go as in depth as, but I would say as far as implementing systems and your policies and then managing tuition and your own financial accounts, if there's any resources or additional reading or podcasts or anything that you can recommend, that would be great.
There's one podcast that's called Focus on This. I think I don't know, but it's all about like routines and getting your, processes together. And it's not for piano teachers. It's just for general business people.
Oh, cool. I might have to check that out.
But I think if teachers are at a place where they want to hire a bookkeeper, that definitely saves time.
Yeah. Yeah. We should put Andrea. So Andrea Miller, Music Studio Startup. We should definitely put her in the show notes because she's got a podcast and her website has some calculators on it too.
Yes.
And I also know Piano Sensei, Clinton Pratt, he has a tuition calculator. And then I'm also thinking of Ashley Danu. She's probably got some great stuff. She's got podcasts and a course program. And I'm so grateful for everything you've given us. It's such good information. But what would you leave teachers with as far as mindset and their business as they prepare for the year?
Oh, that's such a great question because it really does start there, doesn't it? I mean, you can't change your behavior until you change your mind about a lot of things. So I would say to value what they're doing, to realize that it is a need that people have. People are looking for high quality education in music. And what's beautiful, I think, about teaching music is not only what we get to do at our instruments or with our groups, but it's spending time with students, whether it's one-on-one or a small group, where they get like some undivided attention by a quality adult, by an adult that cares about them, loves them, wants to feed into them. And that is not something to be taken lightly. I think sometimes we're like, oh, I'm just a piano teacher. I just do this. And that is something that I would encourage every teacher to consider. You're not just a piano teacher. You're connecting with people. You are changing lives. You're making an impact. You're running a business. And in terms of running a business, I was, for those of you who are lucky to have an In-N-Out in your neck of the woods, I know, Jackie, you don't.
I do not. Yeah, I do not.
You have eaten at one.
Yeah, I did. When I visited California, we did have one.
But okay, so I was just at In-N-Out yesterday, actually. And it's like a weekly occurrence. But I was thinking how the way In-N-Out runs their business is a lot like running a piano studio. And this is kind of just a summary of the three topics we talked about today: the systems and the policies and the money management. So I was just kind of journaling about this. I'm going to read my little points. First, with their product, they do one thing and they do it well. So they're not They're burgers. They're not selling chicken sandwiches or fillet of fish or whatever. They do have a hidden menu, and you can get some stuff like animal style or whatever, but you know what you're there for. You're there to get a hamburger or cheeseburger or whatever. They have quality ingredients. You might pay a little bit more, but you know what you're getting is going to be really good. So thinking about us as teachers, right? Don't apologize. They don't apologize. And I'm sorry, our burgers are a little bit more than McDonald's. You just
Right. Yeah.
So they're not apologizing. And when you leave In-N-Out, you're not going to feel like really sick because they put good ingredients into their items. Their price reflects that. Their price reflects the quality and the value, and they don't apologize for it. Their place is like bright and light, and you do smell grilled onions coming a long way. But that is like part of their system, part of what's expected, so that when you go there, you have an experience that is high quality, it's repeatable. And I think that's how our lessons and our businesses should be too. It's a plan, it's systematized, it's organized, it's repeatable, it runs smoothly. Sometimes it takes time up front to, get that situated. Like for In-N-Out, they have to train their people up front, but that every time you go in there, it's going to be kind of the same experience. So now I'm hungry.
So pretty much we need, you're making me think of Chick-fil-A here. I don't know if you have it out there, but yeah,
very similar.
Yeah. So sometimes I'm like, man, if every business that I deal with could just be as quick and efficient as Chick-fil-A, like we'd be good. So
we could be the Chick-fil-A and the In-N-Out of the piano teaching world with our policies, our systems, and our money management.
We're on it, and then we will eat lunch. So it'll be great. Well, thank you, Amy, so much. This was so much fun, and it's so much fun to always connect with you. And so if anybody's looking for you, real quick, what is the best way for them to find you? And I'll put it in the show notes as well.
The best way, it would be Instagram, and it's Amy Elmore Piano.
Easy.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks, Jackie, for having me. I love seeing what you're doing. I love seeing how you connect with teachers and just really encourage them and cheer them on to have their best teacher lives and experiences, and doing it together in community. It's way more fun and more valuable, productive too. So,
well, thank you. We need each other. So hook up with a piano teacher and go to In-N-Out Burger today and tell them Amy sent you. So, all right. Thanks, Amy. Have a good one.
Bye, Jackie.
Thank you, teachers, for listening to today's show. I hope that this conversation has you reflecting on times that you have had some burnout, and that it sparks some ideas on how you can get ahead of this for your upcoming studio year and throughout your entire studio careers. Make sure to join us next week for my conversation with teacher Tara Mock. She'll be sharing strategies and insights on teaching neurodiverse students, whether we're aware of their needs beforehand or not. We'll also discuss reasons why parents might not disclose this information and how to approach the situation sensitively. It's truly fascinating, and I personally deeply appreciate educators like Tara who navigate these challenges with such openness and care. So I hope that you come in to join us next week, and I'll see you then. And I want to know, what is your COPI? Have a good one.